I didn't think I would cover another video game drama anytime soon, but here we are. And I'm actually pretty sad about this one because I was really looking forward to playing it. This drama involves the current hottest topic within the real-time strategy community, Dawn of War Definitive Edition. It's another remaster that promises to bring Dawn of War to modern standards with high-definition graphics, updated lighting, improved gameplay, and most importantly, seamless modding support with the 64-bit update. And that last part is exactly why we're here today. If you are new to Dawn of War or are planning to play the Definitive Edition in its pure, unadulterated state, then this drama doesn't really concern you. Feel free to click away. But if you're one of us who mainly play Dawn of War nowadays solely for the mods that we are running, then you might want to hear this. So to quickly summarize the issue, the mods aren't working. And some of you might say, of course the mods aren't working, it's a different version of the game. Well, you would be right, except for this one little thing in the official trailer, insinuating that the Definitive Edition's 64-bit update is there to support thousands of community mods. The original Dawn of War, particularly the Dark Crusade and the Soulstorm versions of the game, still has a very active modding community, with Soulstorm's mods housing massive overhauls like Ultimate Apocalypse, Unification, and the one I'm personally running, Crucible. All three add tons of new units in the game, additional factions like the Tyranids, and some absolutely crazy additions that heavily modifies the overall gameplay experience. Having any one of these mods installed lets you play through a Warhammer 40k experience that you can only dream of. Considering how Relic and the dev diaries for DE constantly praise the modding community for their support and contributions to this game, I think every single one of us who heard this assumed the exact same thing, that the existing mods for Dawn of War will be fully integrated into the Definitive Edition with seamless compatibility via the 64-bit update.
I also want to take the opportunity to thank the modding community. These are truly dedicated fans who loved Dawn of War, saw even more potential, and dove in to realize that potential. They've created some truly amazing things, and I can't wait for others to enjoy them.
And I guess hearing those statements came with the assumption that Relic closely worked with the modding teams to bring this definitive experience to the entire Dawn of War community, which includes people who primarily play modified versions of this game. But it seems that that was never the case. For what the actual issue is, we'll take a look at the issues brought up by the Crucible mod team for the original Soulstorm expansion. This mod basically has a similar genetic makeup to Ultimate Apocalypse and Unification, with all three mods built around similar foundations and have almost identical systems in place to have everything working properly. So I can imagine that if Crucible is having problems with DE, so does UA and Unification, but that's just my assumption. So immediately right after the release of the Definitive Edition, the team behind Crucible went to work at testing the compatibility of their mod with DE, and their findings are interesting, to say the least. Aside from these notices on Discord, they also compiled an in-depth report of the issues they uncovered. Oleg, the dev team leader at Crucible, or at least a dev team leader, posted a message on their Cruisy News channel on Discord on August 8th, addressing the community about their plans for the Definitive Edition. Here is our detailed plan in regards to the Definitive Edition. In the first few days after its release, we'll be checking its compatibility with Crucible and if all features are working as intended. Shortly after, we'll be writing a report based on our findings. Things in the report will be, we'll be checking DE's compatibility with Crucible and that everything is working perfectly. Behind the scenes quality of life fixes. There are a lot of bugs, hard-coded features on the back end that make modding more difficult for us. If possible, we'll be exploring and reporting on how much easier it is to mod DE versus base Dawn of War from our perspective. Additional modding tools and whether we are going to be swapping to modding for DE or sticking to modding classic Dawn of War. The current modding tools are very old and way behind at the times, especially compared to something like the StarCraft 2 editor. If there are any additional modding tools being released, we will be talking about those and if we are swapping to modding DE and why or why not. And as soon as the Definitive Edition dropped, Oleg was quick to update the community on their thoughts. We'll skip through the intermittent updates and jump straight to this one where they've summarized and compiled all of the issues they've encountered while trying to test Crucible's compatibility to DE. For those who want to play Crucible in DE, we cannot in good faith recommend it over Soulstorm, even if it was free. The lack of collision completely upending any semblance of balance, where you can lose your entire army to one AoE blast because they all decided to clump together, or have your commanders deleted in seconds by melee units clipping through each other, the UI being very broken, and fog making viewing or playing big battles a pain, which was meant to be the point of having increased performance to see big battles in action, means that we cannot recommend it in its current state to those wishing to play Crucible. If you are looking to increase performance or decrease crashes in Legacy Dawn of War, there is a performance patch that can help you do that. As a modding team, we do not see ourselves moving to modding DE at the moment. They would need to prove that they are willing to listen and fix bugs that have been plaguing the modding community and help make or improve the mod tools so we don't have to work with the same clunky tool that we had 20 years ago. Right now, there are only a few minor positives to moving to DE and multiple major negatives, so on balance, we'll continue modding Legacy Dawn of War until DE is up to scratch. Similarly, we will not be making these specific changes to the mod. We were promised seamless mod support by Relic, so if something doesn't work specifically in DE, that's on them to fix. Now, if we had to change things because of an improvement to the logic or operation of the game, that would be a different story, but most of the bugs from a backend perspective have not been fixed, and those that have didn't cause problems with running Crucible. DE was able to handle a lot of changes that Crucible made, especially to the campaign that I was sure wouldn't work or cause problems, but they don't. So Relic claiming that they need the modders to fix things like the UI and they can't fix it on their end is absurd. They definitely can, don't let them move the goalpost. Lastly, I would like to remind everyone that if you are unhappy with the state of DE, the best way to get your voice heard is to vote with your wallet. If you have not purchased DE, write to Relic, explaining what interests you in their product, why you ended up deciding not to buy it, and what they need to change for you to consider purchasing it. If you have purchased DE, consider refunding it and writing to Relic detailing why you chose to refund it, and what needs to be done for you to consider buying it again. If you let it sit in your library waiting for them to fix it, you are sending a mixed message. They already have your money, what incentive do they have now to improve things? It seems the crux of the issues lie behind the UI or user interface and the lack of unit collision, which just utterly destroys the balance of the game. It seems that Relic has hard-coded some UI elements into DE that results in the UI modifications made by Crucible to be overridden by the base games, which is super counterintuitive to the purpose of modding in the first place. If you don't know, hard coding is basically like using a permanent marker. It takes more effort to find and make changes to a hard-coded element of a game, and that's assuming you're allowed to begin with. Because a lot of games nowadays have clauses in their end-user license agreement, or EULA, that forbids customers from making direct modifications to the exe files. And even without a clause, modifying that shit is just so much of a hassle for anyone that isn't the main game developers to do. So you can see why Oleg is adamant that Relic fix their shit rather than having the modding community adjust to the changes, especially when we were promised, or they at least insinuated, that we're going to have seamless modding support. But correct me if I'm wrong here, the very fact that Crucible or any of the other larger mods didn't get access to DE early to test compatibility of their mods begs the question if Relic really even cares about the modding scene. There's also the changes that Relic made to the gameplay where they removed collision for some reason, resulting in battles that feel shallow, which takes away the spectacle of carnage from the original. Which begs the question, why? This is one of the core features of why we play Dawn of War in the first place. The slow crawl towards victory is part of the gameplay experience. Considering how units in DE are able to pile on a single target and swiftly take them out, then they might as well remove the morale system because it's a completely useless feature here. But to give Relic the benefit of the doubt, I'm not entirely sure if this zero unit collision is a feature or a bug brought by the new pathfinding changes. Aside from Relic announcing that they are pushing a hotfix soon as of writing, they haven't really addressed the issues raised by the community, and rather, they've already started patting themselves in the back in their announcements. Considering how the modding community single-handedly kept their game alive for more than 20 years, and is pretty much the reason why they even sold 150,000 copies within the first 24 hours in the first place, I honestly expected that Relic would at least try to accommodate the modding teams. The modders already had a hard time modding the original Dawn of War, and now Relic has made it even harder to mod the definitive edition by dumping a lot of different files into a single folder, which makes looking for specific files an absolute nightmare. As opposed to, if they had the modders in mind when making this remaster, they would have at least compartmentalized the file structure so that modders would have had an easier time actually working on modding the game. And because they weren't willing to do that, there's also no real modding support, despite them expressing their appreciation to the modding community. Apparently, many of the existing modding tools don't even work, and it would be great if Relic could provide something like Bethesda's Creation Kit, but they didn't even bother with that either. Which is why this is so much of an issue. Relic has almost 30 years of game development experience. This oversight could have easily been resolved with a single community manager reaching out to the modding teams.
There are so many things that we've learned to do better as we've made games over the decades. And so bringing those elements, but really trying to make sure that those are not erasing the elements and qualities that were the magic that kind of put together that game when we originally made it.
But it's not too late, Relic. You can still put your money where your mouth is. Or in this case, our money. There is absolutely no reason why your Dawn of War DE team can't work with the modding community to fix the issues raised by the exact same community that kept your game relevant to this day. If you think ignoring this issue won't hurt your bottom line, you are gravely mistaken. You're forgetting that you spent an entire decade churning out absolute garbage for Sega, and you've lost a lot of credibility that you've built throughout your tenure with THQ. The Relic Entertainment is ironically a relic of the past, pun intended. You have to rebuild the community's trust by addressing these issues. And I think it's one of the main reasons why you're even re-releasing Dawn of War in the first place, why you took the effort to publish dev diaries of the game, and the very reason why you even decided to split from Sega. Because if we ultimately think that this re-release is just yet another cash grab, you're so much on the bottom of the barrel when it comes to trust that I don't even see myself subscribing to whatever game you put out in the future. Dawn of War 1 and 2 will always be legendary video games, and Company of Heroes 1 will always be one of the best video games of all time. But even then, I just can't support you anymore in your future endeavors if you're not even willing to listen to the community that kept supporting you even throughout your decade-long rut. That's really all I wanted to talk about in this video. Hit like if you agree with the modding community's sentiments about the current state of the Dawn of War Definitive Edition. Dislike if you like being used and abused by these companies. Make sure to subscribe and feel free to brigade the comment section with your own gaming politics. But for now, see you guys around and bye-bye.
Get your shitty videos right here. Watch more, drop more views. We'll be back with more, so stay tuned to Rebel Radio.